So we're up to the two dots on Tesla days. Sukkah Agabe Sukkah. It's about 24 lines from the bottom. It's exactly 24 lines from the top, 24 lines to the top. Okay, Tan Rabbanan. Sukkah is Teshvu, v'loi b'sukkah shetachas ha-sukkah. You should sit in one sukkah, mashma, not in the sukkah that's underneath the sukkah. The Mishnah had said a sukkah underneath the sukkah doesn't work. V'loi b'sukkah shetachas ha-ilon, nor in a sukkah that's underneath the tree. V'loi b'sukkah shebetoich habayis, nor in the sukkah that's in a house. Fred the Gemara, Adarabba, Basukkah is written plural, Tarti mashma. It's mashma that even two sukkahs would work. So if you're in a duplex a sukkah, it should work. Amr Rav Nachman Yitzchak, says Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Basukas ksiv. Basukas ksiv. It's written what? Basukas, which is singular. Even though it's pronounced Basukos, right? It's just in Basukas. Now, you might think that this is nichnas to the machlokes we had earlier between the Tanakama and Rav Shimon, regarding whether yesh em lemikra or yesh em lemisoris. Do you go after the way it's written, or do you go after the way it's pronounced? So if you look at the second tosfos in the bottom, Basukos, v'afilu l'man da'amar yesh em lemikra, and even Kunta Man Diyama who says that you go after the way it's read. So Tosfos says asking a kasha, so mashma according to him, it still should be two. Moida the loy lechinam nichtav hamasiris, that it wasn't written for naught with missing the vav. The Pishas Leil I explained before. Tosfos explained before that the machlokes between the Yeshem and Mikra, Yeshem and Masoris is when they go ahead and they contradict each other, right? But it doesn't mean the one who says Yeshem le Mikra is not goyris, the fact that the Torah wrote a certain way. The fact that the Torah wrote in a certain way is certainly taking into account that we should look at it that way. And therefore, Basukas, so one sukkah, not two. So that's the pasul of sukkah tachas sukkah. Rav Yirmiyah, says Rav Yirmiyah, Pa'amim. Now Rav Yirmiyah says the Mishnah Pasha says sukkah tachas sukkah is no good. Rav Yirmiyah is going to bring four scenarios, guys. Four scenarios. One where they're both good, one where they're both bad, one where the upper one is good and the bottom one is bad, and one when the bottom one is good and the up one is bad. The four separate, any scenario that's possible, we're going to go ahead and we're going to explain each one as we go through it. So Rav Yirmiyah, Pamaim sheshtem ksheros. Sometimes the both sukkahs are kosher, even the bottom one. Pam sheshtem psulos, even the top one. Pam shetachtoin kasher v'elyoin psula. Pam shetachtoin psula v'elyoin kasher. Each possibility. Now the Gemara goes through each one. Pam sheshtem kasher. When would that be? Hechidami kigoin shetachtoina chamsa merub mitzilsa. The bottom one alone has more sun than shade, so it alone independently would not be a good sukkah. However, the open one, the top one, has more shade than sun. So now the upper one schach will go ahead and be machsh the lower one schach. But it has to be the kaimi elyoyin b'toich esrim. It has to be that the upper one is b'toich esrim, because if it's above esrim, it says psul of l'mayla mi esrim. So if the bottom sukkah schach is no good and the top sukkah is good and it's within 20, then it'd be considered like one schach, and they'll both be kosher.
Yeah, wouldn't make like a table over your head and the second one underneath.
No, it's not an oil. It's schach. Sometimes they're both pasul. Sometimes they're both no good. They both have more shade than sun, so they're both viable sukkot. And the one above is above 20. Since it's above 20, its schach will passel the one underneath. So therefore, it's no good, and the other one below is also no good. That's what the pasuk was speaking about. No, the pasuk wasn't speaking about that, but the pasuk was speaking about the top one was below 20. Where's the top one kosher and the elyon psul? This is our Mishnah. Where is the upper one kosher and the bottom one pasul? Heichi dami amid aleph. Kigon shehatachtona silsa meruba mechamasa. The bottom one has more shade than sun, so it's a kosher sukkah. Belyoina chamsa meruba mitzilasa, and the elyoina and the top one is more sun than shade. V'kaimi travayu b'soich esrim, and they're both within 20. So now, if they're both within 20, right, and the up and the bottom one schach is kasha, right? And the bottom one's schach is kosher. And the top one is not kosher. So because it's within 20 and it's not kosher schach, we do away with it. And then the bottom one is good. What happens if it will be above 20? Then it's pasla schach. In other words, chasim is not a pasla sukkah. If it's above 20, it's pasla schach. And memela, if it was above 20, we pass the other one below. So the case of the tachtonik kashera, the bottom one is kosher, where it has kosher schach, more sun than shade, more shade than sun. The elyoina psula is where there's what? There's more sun than shade, and it's within 20. Sometimes the upper one is kosher and the bottom one is pasul. They both have more shade than sun. The kaim elyoina b'toich esrim, and the it's within 20. So it's within 20. It's the top one's going to be kosher, and it's a sukkah al gabe sukkah. Now says the Gemara, pshita. It's very interesting, pshita. You just told me the Mishnah pashit sukkah top of sukkah is no good. You just told me a whole scenario, but because if you go, you go through the lumdis, it's pashit like that. So the Gemara says pshita, go through the lumdis. Rabbi Yomi is not just recounting everything; he's not showing his bekiyas. So pshita, what do you come to teach me? The chiddush is tachtoin kashera v'elyoina pesula itzrichlei, where the tachtoin is kasha. Tachtoin is kasha, guys. That was the case. The third case. That was where the bottom one had more sun than shade, and the elyoina psula, where it had more shade, more sun than. No, excuse me. The tachtoin is kasher, where it had more shade than sun. The elyoina was psula, and it had more what? More sun than shade, but it was within 20. Istrichle mad detain nigzer dilma mitzar schach puzzle ba'adei schach kosher. I might think we're worried. We'll be geyser below 20, up to 20, as I told you. If it's above 20, then you mitzar schach kosher schach puzzle. If it's within 20, then we're invatal it. So therefore, I might think you're geyser within 20, up to above 20. Kamashmon, you're not, and that's the chiddush. When it's above 20, when it's below 20, we're not worried and we're not geyser up where it's above 20. So this is interesting, guys. If you got your books, this is interesting. You would think it's a full-fledged sukkah, right? We're going to have a tremendous machlokes. Page 37, guys. 3 opinions. First one, the schach is a tefach. Guys, the schach is a tefach above. That is going to go ahead and passel. Even though it's not considered a sukkah for dira, because you need at least 10 tefachim high, le'inyan oil, it would passel. That's the first opinion. You hear this? Sukkah gabi sukkah, you picture one cold sukkah on top of a whole sukkah. Even if that upper sukkah is not a sukkah to live in, it's a tefach, it's no good. And we'll see why in a second. The second opinion is 4 amis, 4 tefachim. The second opinion, guys, is 4 tefachim. If it's 4 tefachim above, page 38. If it's 4 tefachim above, page 38, that's sukkah. I like a little crawl space. And the final opinion is no. You need a share of hechsha sukkah. You need a sukkah of 10 tefachim. The picture over here, 10 tefachim. So we have 3 shitas: tefach, 4 tefachim, and 10. Let's go through each one and see why it's considered no good. Why this would passel, the upper one would be passel. Good? So we're familiar with the halacha of chalal tefach, that if there's the ear space, there's a mace, the ear space of a tefach, you have a mace, you have a ear space of a tefach, that will cause the tumah to go to the side, but it won't be bokeya, it won't jump through, right? That's it, the chalal tefach. So says the Gemara. The share is a tefach. We find by oile tumah the share is a tefach. Now we learned in the Mishnah oilis tefach al tefach brayim tefach maybe it's a tumah the chaytzis from the tumah al pachas brayim tefach maybe the chaytzis. Okay, you have a good picture of this, guys. You have a very good picture over here. Here you have over here, page 37. Page 37. Here it is. If you have the airspace of a tefach, you're good. It's going to go ahead and spread it over here. If it's less, it will not be. That's the case. Okay, so since that airspace is chashiv, to be considered something, this halakha of sukkah, that airspace is to be considered a sukkah. Again, even though it's not called a sukkah, to be kasha, the Indian oil, it's enough to go ahead and pass it. That's the first shita. Rav Chisda Rav Huna Omar, they disagree with Rav Huna. They say Omar Arba, the shir of Arba Tfachin. Shleimatzinu makim chashiv pachas me Arba. We don't find a shir that's mechashiv pachas Arba. Guys, in the Hilchah Shabbos, right? In order to be Rishus HaYachid, you had to be 10 by 4. 10 by 3 was a Carmelist. Again, 4 is the makim chashiv. So you have 4 is the makim chashiv. Memela what? It will be. That's the same thing in Sukkah, the Chashivas. That's the share of Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna. So Rav Huna says a tefach. Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna say what? They say 4. Finally, Shmuel Amar Asara. That this is what we always thought. In other words, it's a full-fledged kosher sukkah on a sukkah. The most minimal share. Asara tfachim is the most minimal share of a sukkah. My time in the Shmuel. What's the reason of Shmuel? Kehechshera kach pesula. The share of hechsher sukkah is the same of the share of psula. Just in order to be a sukkah, you have to be 10. Remember, guys, we learned it out from the schach. The kruvim was sicha al pnei the arin. They went on top of the arin, or because it was Allah Moshe Sinai, like Rabbi Yehuda, who said it's the share is 5 tefachim, and it was 11 and a half, the distance between that and the ground. Af psula basara. So too psula is basara. Okay, so those 3 shitas. Tanan Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. Rabbi Yehuda said in our Mishnah, if no one lives in the upper sukkah, regardless, in other words, if the share was, whatever share it is that you're going to hold as a sukkah, if no one lives there, it's going to be kosher. Now, what does living there have to do with anything? Guys, the sukkah is a din in the chefza, in the object. It's not a din in the gavra. It's either you're looking at something that's puzzle or not puzzle. What does that have to do with a person living there, right? It's a din in the object. It's not a din what? It's not a din in diurim. So diurim is very cryptic. Says the Gemara, my in diurim. Ilay diurim mamish. You tell people mamish living there. Now, so the guy goes away for lunch. Let's say he goes away for sukkahs. Guys, you say sukkah gabi sukkah. He goes to Israel. So no one's living there. You can tell me it's a kosher sukkah. Like l'chayre has nothing to do with it. The diurim kagarmi. Is it the people who live there that caused it to be a viable sukkah, to cause the problem of sukkah takas sukkah? That doesn't make any sense. Elolav, my in the urine. What does it mean? The urine, kol she'ena ru'uya l'dira. It means it's not roy to be dear. It's not talking about people. The sukkah, the top sukkah, you couldn't live in. So since you couldn't live in it, therefore the bottom sukkah will be good. The heiki dami. What does it mean? You couldn't live in it. Like gavaya sarah. It's not 10 high. It's too small. Okay. So l'chayre it's a kash and shmuel, right? Mechal tanakama sava afa pi she'ena ru'uya l'dira psula. Tanakama says even though it's not royal ladira, meaning it's not 10. It's even though afal pishein royal ladira psula, even though it's not royal ladira, it would be possible. The whole thing is a kasher and shmuel. Ki yasser of dimi omar amim maroi said Eretz Yisrael emena tachtoni yichol kabel korim v'kastais. You know what it means? It means that the floor on the top one, which is the ceiling on the bottom, it cannot accept pillows or mattresses. Shalayonim. Then tachtoina shera. Okay, the tachtoina would be kasha. The tachtoina would be kasha. Now, so as long as if what? Right. No, we're not talking about living. We're not talking about living. Right.
You can't sleep on.
Again, we're talking so again, it means that b'shas a person could live. It could accept karim v'kastais.
And living meaning the word was
it means strength. It means strength to carry something. Yichol l'kabel karim v'kastais shol yoyna. Then I thought trying to share Michal Tanakama Sava Alpha Pisha ain't a real kabel psula, and it can be nice. Well, at a different speed, the Yichol kabel al yidei achak. If it's able to go ahead al yidei achak, it's able to receive it. That would be that would be the criteria. So now, if you look at Rashi just simply says, since it will be able to take pillows and mattresses. Shem sukkah al yoina. It has a shem sukkah umifsla tachtoina. We'll pass the bottom one. if it's able to accept it al yedei chak. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, Kivin, you can't go ahead and use it rightfully so. Lav shem sukkah alai. It doesn't have shem sukkah. So again, when the Mishnah says, guys, I'm going back to our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda, sukkah gabe sukkah, ha'elyonik ksher v'tachtoin psula. What? When is that? That's only it. That's it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im ein diyurim b'elyoina ha'tachtoin kshera. If there's no one who lives in the elyoina, then the tachtoin is kshera. Meaning, if the upper one, the floor of the upper one cannot accept karam b'kistais b'shasat chak, pillows and mattresses, right? Pillows and mattresses. So like the chachamim, who say that what it's able b'shasat chak to accept it, it will be a full-fledged sukkah. Says Rabbi Yehuda, no, since in the Yurim it's not able to physically live there, even though it's al yedei chak, it would not be a kasha sukkah on top. Therefore, the bottom one will be kasha. Says the Mishnah. Okay, the next thing is very interesting. Page 39. Look at page 39. This is going to be a chiddush to a lot of guys. You're spreading on top of the sukkah. You're worried about. Because of the sun. You want to be protected from the sun. So you put on top of the sukkah, you put a sadin. Underneath, you don't want again, they used to use the schach, they used to use like branches and grass and all kinds of stuff, and would fall into your food. So they put underneath it, they put something to catch it. Good. So what's the halacha about? What's the halacha about these pictures? So it says the Gemara. Parisula sadin mifnei hachama. If you spread on top because of the sun, oy tachteha, or underneath the schach mifnei hanishar, because of the falling what? Falling garbage. Oy shapiris agabi akinuf, or you spread it on a four-posted bed. Or you spread it on a four-posted bed, right? You spread it on a four-posted bed, right? In all those cases, psula. Aval parasul gabi nakliti amita. If it's nakliti amita, if it's a two-posted bed and it comes out, guys, look like a triangle, then it would be acceptable. Wow. Then it would be okay because then it's not considered a separate oil. Then it won't be mafsik. Okay, so now, Rav Chisda, that din of the Mishnah, that you're spreading it underneath, guys. Spreading underneath, right? A tent in the sukkah, it's good. As long as the top is not a gag, it will be good. Now, listen to this. Listen to this, guys. Rav Chisda, Loishanu. We did not learn that what? That Rashi, Loishanu lefnei anishar, the shav yischach lohagin. We're going to make the sadin that you spread underneath part of the schach, hilkach mifsul mishum mekabel tuma. Good. Guys, you put this underneath the schach for the purpose of the schach, because you don't want the schach bringing garbage into your thing, correct? Yes. Guess what? That becomes puzzle. Why? Because it had the same purpose of the schach, which was to protect. The Mela, that's where it said, when the Mishnah said you spread a sheet, b'fnei hanishar, it's puzzle, is when you did it for the purpose of spreading it for the leaves. But continue. Avolin guys, if you spread a sheet for the purpose of noi, right? Leusa, page 40, picture 1. Page 40, picture 1. Look at the sheet. Look what you're spreading, guys. Look at the top.
That's not decoration, no.
You hear this? You would think in a million years that's puzzle. It's kasha.
So what do we do?
It's kasha. Why? Why? Because you didn't. That's not for the purpose of schach. It's for the purpose of night. It's for the purpose of beauty. Says the Gemara one more time. When did we say that what? That it's puzzle if you spread it underneath the schach. That's to capture the falling sediment. If you spread a tapestry on the roof, kshera, says Rashi. Listen to this. Ein shem schach aleha ukshera. It doesn't have the shem schach and it's kasha. So when you spread it for the nishar, it's for the purpose of the schach, then it's possible. It's lahagin. When you spread it linausa, then what? It will be kasha. Now it says the Gemara, guys, pshita. Pashit means I would never say this is pshita. Pshita. Mifnei anishar tanan. The Mishnah said you spread it for the purpose of the falling stuff, the sediment, leaves, grass, whatever's coming off. Memela, if it's not for that, it's kosher. Mao the tame, I would have thought. Who I did not feel in the usa. I would have thought that even you spread it for beauty. For haidik tani mifnei anishar. Urcha de milsa katani. Kamash malon. That what? That no. Kamash malon. That if you spread it for noi, then it's not considered, and it would be what? It would be fine. Okay.
How do you do it? Don't you see the sun?
No, I'm saying this. We'll see the halacha, but this is again. This is brought down la halacha, and we'll see the halacha. No one does this. Lema Messiah lay. We want to bring a proof to this. A proof that you can spread a tapestry underneath the schach for the purpose of decoration. Sichacha kilchasa. You made the schach kilchasa. You put up the schach correctly. It's still some mechamsa. It's something that's not makabel tuma. All the thing we didn't learn it yet. Everything that you checked off everything. Now the itra, and you went ahead and you adorned your kramim with sadionim, certain types of embroidery, tapestries, hamitsuyorim that were pictures on them. Now the havamina is, guys, where do you put these tapestries? Underneath the schach. Right. So that's going to be the raya, right? That's going to be the raya. The talaba, and you went ahead and you put on there egoism, nuts, shkedim, almonds, forsaken peaches, or rimonim, and you hung this up from the schach, rimonim, parchile anovim, clusters of grapes, biatorish shel shiboilim, yenei, shmonim, salsais, all kinds of bottles of oils and different types of things that people, right? Giant electric lights. Also, let's stop it behind. Then it'll be asa to use them. Again, you can't use all these things are asa, right? They're all asa because of what? You makatz it, so therefore they're muktzah for 8 days. Ad moitzi yontav achron. You can't use them until the last day of Sukkot. Shel Chag. V'im hisna aleihem, and if you made a condition that bein hashmashos, you made a condition when Yontav came, you're going to do it. Hakol lefi tanai, everything goes according to the tanai. L'chayra, you have a raya. It says over here you could adorn using kromim, usadonim, and we thought the havamina is it's underneath the schach. And for the Gemara, you have no raya. Kenzain, these tapestries are hanging from the walls of the sukkah, going down vertically rather than horizontally. Itmar, this is the sukkah of nice sukkah, ein mimatin b'sukkah. As nice sukkah, guys, let's say you have a sukkah that is 20 amas high. It's no good. And you hang something from the top, right? It's not memayat to share. It's still puzzle. Conversely, if you have a sukkah that's 10 tefachim that's kasha, if you hang the tapestry in there, it's still going to be kasha. It's right. It's still going to be kasha. Even if you hang it over there, it's still going to be kasha. It's still going to be kasha. L'chayr, it's very interesting, fellas. We learned the halacha. If you're sitting in a sukkah that's 10 tefachim and it has branches going down into the sukkah, right? We said that we said no, you could sit in a sukkah 10 tefachim. You could sit. And if you go, the way it used to sit. If we said that it has going in it branches, it's a dira srucha, right? We said it's a dira srucha, you can't sit in it. So over here, it's fascinating. When there are branches coming in, it's a dira srucha. When it's there Illinois, it's not a dira srucha. It diminished from your airspace, it doesn't make a difference. The purpose, it's not considered dira srucha if it was hanged there in Noi. It's a fascinating concept. Anyway, itmar, Noi sukkah, ein min ma'atim b'sukkah. If it's not memayit the dimensions of the sukkah, if it's above 20, it'll remain puzzle. If it's above 10, it'll remain kasha. Amar Ravashi, umin atzad mimatin. However, if it's on the side of the sukkah, meaning it's 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim, and you put it on the side, then it will go ahead and diminish from the share. Minyamin avdei Ravashi. Minyamin was the servant of Ravashi, and it mishelei kantunto b'maya v'shtachta amataltalta. He got wet. His tunic got wet. He went ahead and he threw it on top of the sukkah to dry off. Amar Ravashi, Dalia, take it down. People shouldn't say that what again, Rav Ashi is the God Lador. People are going to learn from him. He has to be very careful. So again, people are not going to say it's laundry that's hanging. So l'chayra, just take it down right away. People should not think that you can go ahead and use sometimes kabel tuma. They see it's wet, so l'chayra they won't say that. And the Gemara said Rav Ashi, when it's going to dry off, people are going to say it. This guy Midyamin is giving Rav Ashi lip. Can you imagine? Itmar noy sukkah hamuflogim mimena arba. Noy sukkah that hangs down 4 tefachim into the sukkah. It hangs down 4 tefachim into the sukkah. Rav Nachman Omak Sheira. It's going to be bottled to the schach. If Krista Rabbi Huna Amrei Psula. It's going to be what? It's going to be puzzle. Let's see Rashi over here. Says Rashi, Noy sukkah. What is noy sukkah? Sadinim haprusim tachas schach lenoi. The sadinim that are spread underneath the schach for beauty. Psula. Mishum oil mafsik. Right? So this arya, this is the answer to your question. It's going to be oil mafsik. You spread it out there, but it's going to be mafsik. It's going to be an oil. Vishtachit to like ganai b'sukkah. And nimsa that you're not lying down in the sukkah. Urav Nachman kivin the sukkah yavina and bottle gaba. Says Rav Nachman, since you put it up there for the purpose of the sukkah, what? It's bottle. So now you know why we don't do it, because we pass like Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna. Now, what happens? Rav Chisda, the Rabbi back in the Gemara, Rav Chisda, Rabbi Rav Huna, Amri Psula, Rav Chisda, Rav Huna, Ikloy Lebei Reish Galusa. They came to the base of Reish Galusa. Now Rav Nachman was the son-in-law of the Reish Galusa. And the Reish Galusa was a tough place. You got to be careful. You got to be on your toes. So Agninu Rav Nachman put Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna in a sukkah that he held kasha because it was spread lenoi, and they held puzzle because it's an oil. And shenoya muflogim mimenu arbet fachim, that the noy was muflig arbet fachim. So ishtiku v'le'amru v'le'midi. They were quiet. They don't. Yeah. Amalahu. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna, Hadar b'hu Rabbanon mishmaisu. Did you go ahead and say for your shmaitzu? Did you change your mind and agree with me? So Amalei, they told Rav Nachman, Anoshluchi mitzvah ano, uptur men sukkah. Vishluchi mitzvah who put from the sukkah. So we had, they had a workaround. I'm Rav Yudah Mishma. Okay, so halachically. Okay, this is a summary of the halachis. The dinim, ledina beinim prisa sadim fnei achama, spreading a sheet. Okay, prisa sadim lahagan la mecham umayolim. If you're spreading it for the purpose of protection from the sun or from the leaves, right? Sukkah shatzilsa mirub mechamasa, a sukkah that you have more shade than sun. Vadayin nichlas chama bein anfei eschach, and it can still come in. So we get, you got 2 opinions over here. Das Rishonim is Paiseles. It's considered schach and it's not going to be good. A second opinion is what? Since you have a good share of schach, that you have more sun than shade than sun, and the sadin is not protecting the schach, it's underneath it, right? There it would be kasha. It should be puzzle. So if you have a kosher sukkah and you put up the sadin to protect you, it would be okay. Okay, this is the din of noi. Pieces sadin lenoi. Paris is the sadin tachas the schach lenoi sukkah. You spread a sheet underneath the sukkah, underneath the schach, for the purpose of imhumi tech dalet fachim. If it's within dalet fachim, the schach ksheira. If neisha betel in the schach, it's bottled to the schach as long as it's within 4 tefachim. Umutel the shavis tachteim. The imheim rechoikim eschach dalet fachim harim chashuv mifnei atzmon ve'ena betel in the schach. And if shein yoshe betzel schach a little bit betzel noi. If it's 1 of 4 tefachim, you can be sitting in the sail of the noi, not in the sail of the schach. Okay, you have to, again, so it appears to be, I don't know why people don't do it, but I guess they're always worried that it's going to be sink more than 4 tefachim, and then you have a problem. That's probably the reason. Okay, good. Continuing. Now, the din of the Mishnah spoke about a chilik between kinufyan and kinuf, which was a 4-posted bed, and naklitin, which was two-posted bed. So we're going to get into that a little bit, if that's considered what a oil or not. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Mishmuel, mutar lishayin b'kila b'sukkah. You're able to sleep in a kila in a sukkah. We have a picture over here. We have a kila. Here, picture number 133. Kila. Okay, so it's mutter to sleep in a kila in a sukkah, right? Gag, even if it has a roof, provided in other words, if it's less than asara, according to Shmuel, you could sleep in it. If it's more than asara, you can't. So we have to see the distinction. What's the difference between this kila and the Mishnah of Kinufyan? Tashma hayashim b'kila b'sukkah la yatsi dechavasai. So how can you Shmuel say you are yaitza? That's where it's what? It's higher than 10. It's higher than 10. It's considered a separate rishus. You're not in the sukkah. Meisvei hayashin tachas amita b'sukkah. We're going to have a Mishnah vaita. Someone sleeps under a bed in a sukkah. La yatsi dechavasai. So what's the chilik between sleeping under a kila or under a bed? It says Maratig Mishmuel b'mita gavaya sara. That speaking where the mita was higher than 10. Tashma a shapiris al gabe kinoipais psula. Or you spread it on top of kinoipais, a four-posted bed. It's psula. That's our Mishnah. So what's the difference in kila that it's good according to Shmuel and our Mishnah says it's no good? Hasanami de gavia asara. Our Mishnah is speaking where it's higher 10. We did not learn that way. Again, there were two dinim in the Mishnah: kinufya, the four-posted bed, and naklitin, the two-posted bed. And you're telling me that the knufya is speaking where it's what? It's 10. I'll show you it's not. The Tanya. Naklitin shnayim. Naklitin are two posts in the middle of the bed and one by the head, and it's going to drape down like a triangle. The kinoipis is a four-posted bed, arba. Piras agabi kinoipis psula. Agabi naklitin kshera. Ubelvad provided shlayu naklitin gavoyim in amita asara. Provided the naklitin are not higher than 10 over the bed. Now, when we make this distinction of 10 by the naklitin, obviously must be by the kinufya, even below 10 is no good. Nechlal the kinoipis, the four-posted bed, even though it's not 10, is not good. Fellas, we introduced the chilik of 10 where? By the two-posted bed. Mashman, a four-posted bed, even below 10 won't be good. Kashan Shmula said the kila above below 10 is good. What's the difference between kila and knufya? And for Gemara, shiny kinoipis the kavi. A kinoipis is more set, it's more founded. And therefore, it's more, even though it's below 10, Shmuel's saying, even though it's below 10, it's considered an area by itself, and therefore you're not sitting in the sukkah. Mashenki in the kila, which is more temporary by nature, that would be okay as long as it's below 10. One sukkah on top of the sukkah, that's kivi. If it's above 10, what it is, it's puzzle. So I l'chayra, but kfi alone would not passel. It's mashma only because it's 10. Guys, you're saying a lot, but kvi below 10 is puzzle. Shmuel said sukkah gabe sukkah. It's only puzzle when it's above 10. A sukkah that's on top of a sukkah is similar to kinoifis. It's both kivi, it's both strong, right? Yet Shmuel says only above 10. So you see, he doesn't agree with this chilik between below 10 and 10 when it comes to kinoifis. Says the Gemara, Ami Hasam del Mifsal Sukkah Basara. Over there it comes to Pasal Baz Sukkah. You want to pass another sukkah, there it takes Asara. Hacha over here by the Kenoifis, the Leshavia oila, that all you have to do is create an oil that you should be considered in a separate jurisdiction, but some Asara Nami Havi oila. Okay, so let's Chazuribba. What do we see so far? We saw the din of Kila, which is seemed to be a temporary bed. Shmuel said as long as it's below 10, you're good. Above 10 will be considered separate oil. We saw the din in our Mishnah of Kinoipis that even below 10 it won't be good because of its strength, it's a separate oil. And so the difference between that and Sukkah Gabi Sukkah would be what? Sukkah Gabi Sukkah, you have to create a Sukkah. Over here, you just have to create an oil. And we saw the din of Naklitin, which is kasha, but above 10, it won't be kasha because again, once you're above 10, you're in a separate jurisdiction. Once you're above 10, you're in a separate jurisdiction. Amrav Tachlifa Baravim Yom Shmuel. Hayashim B'Kila Aram. Again, taking this a step further. You're without clothing, and you want to say Kriya Shema. Now, what would you do? If you had a garment, you'd wrap the garment around you, correct? So now you're in a kila, you're without clothing, and you want to say Kriya Shema. Moitzi roishay chutz l'kila, stick your head outside the kila, v'kaira Kriya Shema, and go ahead and read Kriya Shema. Why? Because we'll consider the kila as if it's your shirt. Why? Because again, since it's below 10, it's not a separate area by itself. If someone is going to the head and he's arum, he should not stick his head outside the kila. You know why? That's above 10. Once that's above 10, it's like a separate jurisdiction. So if you stick your head out, we're going to stick your head and go after your body. In other words, it's not like you're wearing a shirt. It's a chush of a place by itself. So it's like you sit, guys, if you're sitting without clothing, you stick your head out your window and you say Kriya Shema, you're going to put your head after your body. So too over here, since it's 10, it's a separate jurisdiction, meaning it's a bifnei atzma. Stick your head out, it's not going to help you. Only less than 10 will help. Hachanami mistabrim and the Tani Seifa, halam ezeh doime, la'oime b'bayis arim, shlayotzi roishay chutz l'chaloin, sitting in a house and sticking your head out, l'chaloin v'yikr Kriya Shema. Shema mino, you have what? You have a good raya. Ubayis nami af b'shen gavoy asara, and a house, even though it's not high 10, even the kavi oila, since what? It's kavi, the oil is kavi, who the legarmi kanopis. It's no different than what? And then kinopis. I'll stop over here.
Shabbos.
Shabbos and
Good Shabbos, easy
yeah.
fast.